Listen closely, because what I'm about to tell you will sound absolutely ridiculous. My name is Keth Vorthalani, and I'm what you humans would call a xenobiologist. Though after what happened on Earth, I'm starting to think professional idiot might be a more accurate job title. It all started when our science vessel, the Nephis Prime, picked up radio transmissions from your little blue planet. Commander Zara Kellix was practically vibrating with excitement in her biochair when the signals first came through our receivers. Vorlani, she barked across the bridge, her four arms gesticulating wildly. Get over here and tell me what you make of these patterns. I floated over to her station, my tentacles gripping the deck plating for stability. The Galactic Council had been searching for intelligent life for over 3 centuries, and we'd found nothing but microbes and gas clouds. So when structured electromagnetic radiation started pouring from Sol 3, you can imagine our collective losing of minds. What am I looking at, Commander? I asked, studying the oscilloscope displays. Audio transmissions, she replied, her voice tinged with disbelief. Complex, layered, mathematical. But here's the weird part. Vorthalani, they are not just sending data, they are sending patterns. Emotional patterns.
That got my attention.
See, in all our centuries of space travel, we'd never encountered a species that transmitted emotions through sound waves. Our own communications were purely telepathic, direct mind-to-mind contact. Clean, efficient, logical. Show me, I said. Zara activated the audio processors, and suddenly the bridge filled with the most bizarre cacophony I'd ever heard. Rhythmic thumping, melodic sequences, and something that sounded like controlled vocal emissions. By the void, whispered our communications officer, Tam Quelos, his scales turning a pale green. They are making organized noise. It's called music, I said, accessing our cultural databases. I have read about theoretical concepts of sonic artistry, but I never imagined the transmission we were hearing was something called rock music. Specifically, a song titled Bohemian Rhapsody by an entity called Queen. And let me tell you, the first time you hear Freddie Mercury's voice echoing through the vacuum of space, it does things to your brain that evolution never prepared you for. This is incredible, Zara muttered, her eyes wide. They are encoding emotional data into acoustic waves. Do you realize what this means? I did realize, actually. If we could understand their music, we could understand their emotional structures. And if we could understand their emotions, we could understand them. It was the anthropological find of the millennium. Set course for Earth, Zara commanded. Maximum velocity. Now looking back, that was probably our first mistake. But hindsight is always perfect, isn't it? The journey took us 47 standard cycles, during which time we intercepted thousands more transmissions. Jazz, classical, pop, metal, country, something called death metal, that made our security chief hide in his quarters for 3 days. Each genre was like a window into the human psyche, and we were addicted. Our linguist Dr. Mira Volpas worked around the clock to decode their language patterns. She was a brilliant researcher, fluent in over 600 galactic dialects, but human music had her completely baffled. The linguistic structures make sense, she told me during one of our daily briefings, but the emotional content is overwhelming. They pack more feeling into a 3-minute song than we experience in a full cycle. What do you mean? I asked. She pulled up a song called The Sound of Silence by Simon and Garfunkel. As the haunting melody filled the laboratory, I watched her bio-readings spike dangerously. Listen to the words, Vorlani. They are singing about isolation, about the inability to communicate, about finding meaning in emptiness. Our brains aren't designed to process that level of existential complexity. I should have paid more attention to that warning, but the music was just so fascinating. How could a species create something so beautiful and so terrible at the same time? When we finally reached Earth's solar system, we positioned ourselves behind their moon and began monitoring their transmissions more closely. What we found defied every theory we had about intelligent life. Humans didn't just make music for entertainment. They made it for worship, for rebellion, for love, for war, for healing, for destruction. They had songs that could make you weep and songs that could make you want to fight armies. They had lullabies that could calm the most savage beast and battle hymns that could inspire courage in the face of certain death. Commander, I reported after several days of observation, I don't think we are dealing with a normal species here. Zara looked up from her tactical displays. Define normal. Vorlani. Well, for starters, they experience emotions at intensities that would kill most sentient beings. Their music suggests they feel love so deeply it becomes physical pain, and despair so profound it transcends reason. They write songs about wanting to die, and other songs about being willing to die for each other. Fascinating, she mused. And you think this is connected to their music somehow? I think their music is their emotions, I replied. They have found a way to externalize their internal experiences and share them with others. It's like telepathy, but voluntary and artistic. That's when Chief Science Officer Lex Kamenos had his brilliant idea. And by brilliant I mean catastrophically stupid. What if we made contact through music? He suggested during our senior staff meeting. Instead of traditional first contact protocols, we could respond to their transmissions with musical communication of our own. The idea sent excited murmurs around the conference room. Traditional first contact involved lengthy diplomatic exchanges, mathematical proofs, and careful cultural analysis. But musical contact, that was unprecedented. It's risky, I warned. We don't fully understand their emotional ranges. What if we accidentally send them something that drives them insane? Or, Zara countered, what if we establish the most profound interspecies connection in galactic history? The vote was unanimous. We were going to make first contact through music. Our musicians, led by Nix Thorvin, began composing what we hoped would be a peaceful greeting. We used mathematical sequences, harmonic progressions, and melodic structures that we thought would convey benevolence and intelligence. The composition took us 12 days to complete. It was beautiful, in a coldly logical way, perfect mathematical ratios, crystalline harmonies, emotionally neutral progressions that wouldn't offend or alarm. We transmitted it toward Earth on every frequency we could access. The response was immediate. Within hours, every radio station on the planet was playing our transmission. They called it the Alien Song, and it became the most analyzed piece of music in human history. But here's where things got interesting. Instead of responding with a similar composition, they started sending us their music, not just any music, but their most emotionally intense pieces. First came Imagine by John Lennon, a simple piano melody carrying lyrics about peace, unity, and hope. Our crew listened in stunned silence as the song washed over us, filling our minds with visions of a world without conflict. Then came the Star-Spangled Banner, and half our bridge crew collapsed from the sheer patriotic intensity. Hallelujah by Leonard Cohen made our chaplain question the fundamental nature of existence. Smells Like Teen Spirit by Nirvana caused a minor riot in our recreation areas. And then they sent us Bob Dylan's The Times They Are A-Changin'. Now, I need you to understand something about galactic society. We have been stable for millennia. Same government, same social structures, same way of doing things. Change happens slowly, carefully, with committee approval and extensive planning. But this song was about revolution, about old systems dying and new ones being born, about the inevitability of generational change and the power of young voices to reshape reality. Our sociologist, Dr. Yara Fenwick, listened to it exactly once before sealing herself in her quarters and refusing to come out. "This is dangerous," she transmitted through the door. "This music is designed to make people question authority, to inspire social upheaval. We need to stop listening immediately." But we couldn't stop. The music was too compelling, too beautiful, too strange. We kept requesting more, and humanity kept delivering. They sent us blues songs about heartbreak so profound our medical staff had to treat several crew members for clinical depression. They sent us protest songs that made our military officers question the morality of warfare. They sent us love songs that caused a minor baby boom when our crew members started pair bonding with unprecedented intensity. And then came the children's songs. Oh, by the void, the children's songs. Twinkle, twinkle, little star seems innocent enough, right? Wrong. It's about wonder, about looking at the universe and asking questions, about curiosity as a driving force. After hearing it, our navigation officer started questioning our mission parameters and suggesting alternative destinations. Row, row, row your boat is about life being a dream, about the fundamental unreality of existence. Our philosophers are still in therapy, but the worst was this old man. A counting song that seemed harmless until you realized it was teaching children to find joy in simple, repetitive activities while acknowledging the passage of time and the inevitability of aging. Our young crew members started experiencing something they'd never felt before: nostalgia for a childhood they hadn't even had yet. "Commander," I reported after 2 weeks of musical exchange, "we have a problem. The crew is showing signs of psychological transformation. They are experiencing emotions at levels that are frankly unsafe." Zara looked up from her duty station, and I was shocked to see tears in her eyes, actual tears. "Our species doesn't cry. We don't even have the biological capability for it." "I know," she said softly. "I just listened to something called Amazing Grace, and I think I experienced what humans call spiritual awakening. It was terrifying and wonderful, and I can't make it stop." That's when I realized what was happening. The humans weren't just sharing their music with us, they were sharing their humanity. Every song was a piece of their collective soul, a fragment of their species-wide emotional experience. And we were absorbing it. "We need to break contact," I said urgently. "Our neural patterns are being rewritten. We are becoming something other than what we were." But even as I said it, I knew it was too late. The music had already changed us. We could feel things we'd never felt before, think thoughts that would have been impossible a month earlier, dream dreams that weren't our own. The final straw came when Earth transmitted something called Stairway to Heaven by Led Zeppelin. 8 minutes and 2 seconds of pure transcendence. It started slowly, gently, like a meditation. But then it built, layer upon layer, instrument upon instrument, emotion upon emotion, until it became something approaching religious experience. Our entire crew gathered in the main bay to listen together. As the song progressed, I watched my colleagues transform before my eyes. The rigid hierarchy of galactic society meant nothing in the face of shared musical ecstasy. When the guitar solo hit, our weapons officer started weeping. When the vocals soared in the final section, our engineer began laughing with pure joy. And when the song ended, we all just sat there in silence, forever changed. "Captain," our communications officer said quietly, "we are receiving another transmission from Earth." "What is it?" Zara asked. It's a message. In our language. They have learned to speak to us." The message was simple. Written in perfect galactic standard: "Welcome to the human experience. We hope you survive it." That's when I realized the terrible truth. The humans knew exactly what their music would do to us. They'd weaponize their emotions, turned their art into a form of psychological warfare. But here's the truly terrifying part. I don't think they meant it as an attack. I think they genuinely wanted to share. "Set course for home," Zara ordered, her voice heavy with newly acquired melancholy. "Emergency velocity." As we fled the solar system, I couldn't help but think about what we'd discovered. Humanity wasn't just another intelligent species. They were something unprecedented. A people who had learned to survive emotional intensities that would destroy most minds, and had turned that survival into art. Their music wasn't just entertainment, it was evolutionary adaptation. And every song was a lesson in how to feel too much and keep living anyway. And now we carried that knowledge with us back to a galactic society that had never experienced such things. The journey home was difficult. Our crew had been fundamentally altered by exposure to human music. We found ourselves questioning everything: our government, our social structures, our very purpose as a species. But the worst part was the silence. After weeks of human music, the quiet efficiency of our ship felt empty, sterile, lifeless. We started making our own music. It was terrible at first. Discordant, emotionally confused, technically adequate but spiritually hollow. We were trying to replicate something we didn't fully understand, like children playing with tools meant for adults. But slowly, painfully, we began to find our own voice. Dr. Volpas created haunting melodies that captured the loneliness of space travel. Commander Zara composed martial anthems that spoke to the warrior spirit she never knew she possessed. Even I tried my hand at it, creating musical representations of scientific discovery and xenobiological wonder. By the time we reached Galactic Central, we had become something new, not quite human but no longer entirely ourselves. The debriefing was a disaster. "You made contact through music?" High Admiral Corbin demanded, his bio readings spiking with outrage. without proper diplomatic protocols, without cultural preparation, without safety measures. Sir, I tried to explain, the humans use music as a form of communication. We thought— You thought wrong, he snapped. Look at you. You are emotionally compromised, psychologically altered, mentally unstable. He wasn't wrong. We were all those things. But we were also alive in a way we'd never been before. With respect, Admiral, Commander Zara said calmly, we have made the most significant anthropological discovery in galactic history. Humanity represents a completely new form of consciousness, one that has learned to weaponize emotion and turn suffering into beauty. Weaponize emotion. The Admiral's scales turned an alarmed shade of purple. Are you telling me they attacked you psychologically? No, sir, I interjected. They shared with us voluntarily, but the effect was transformative. Human music carries emotional content that exceeds our normal parameters. Listening to it changed our neural patterns, expanded our emotional range, altered our fundamental worldview. The Admiral stared at us for a long moment, his 4 eyes blinking in sequence. Show me, he said finally. That was our second mistake, but I will save that story for another time. Because right now, sitting in my quarters aboard the Nethys Prime as we prepare for our second mission to Earth, I can hear my crewmates singing. They are singing human songs with lyrics in languages they don't fully understand, expressing emotions they are still learning to process. And it's the most beautiful sound I have ever heard. The humans wanted to share their music with us. The question now is, will we survive learning what it means? Admiral Corvin's request to show him the human music was like watching someone ask to be struck by lightning. Twice. Sir, I said carefully, perhaps we should start with something gentle. The emotional impact can be quite overwhelming for first-time listeners. The Admiral's expression suggested he thought I was being dramatic. His bio-reading showed the kind of confidence that comes from 3 centuries of military service and absolute certainty in galactic superiority. Vorlani, I have commanded fleets through psychic storms and negotiated with beings that communicate through toxic gases. I think I can handle whatever primitive noise these humans produce. Commander Zara and I exchanged glances. She gave me the slightest shake of her head, but the Admiral had made his decision. Very well, I said, accessing our musical database. We will start with something universally regarded as beautiful. Clair de Lune by Claude Debussy. The soft piano melody began flowing through the conference room speakers. For the first 30 seconds, Admiral Corvin maintained his skeptical expression. Then something shifted in his bio-readings. His respiratory rate slowed. His neural activity patterns began fluctuating in ways I'd never seen before. His scales shifted from their usual military purple to a soft, almost luminescent blue. What? He whispered, his voice thick with an emotion he didn't recognize. What is this feeling? Humans call it beauty, sir, Commander Zara replied gently. The recognition of aesthetic perfection combined with emotional resonance. The Admiral sat motionless as the piece concluded, tears streaming down his face. Yes, tears. Another impossible biological response we'd all developed after extended exposure to human art. More, he said hoarsely. That should have been our warning sign. Over the next several hours, we introduced Admiral Corvin to the full spectrum of human musical expression. Mozart's Requiem left him contemplating mortality for the first time in his centuries-long life. The Beatles' Here Comes the Sun filled him with an optimism so profound it was almost painful to witness. But it was Johnny Cash's version of Hurt that broke him completely. For those unfamiliar, Hurt is a song about regret, about the weight of choices made and time lost, about the slow accumulation of damage that comes with simply existing. When performed by an aging human near the end of his life, it becomes something approaching a musical autobiography of suffering. Admiral Corvin listened to it once, then immediately demanded to hear it again, and again. Admiral, I said after the 5th repetition, perhaps we should take a break. The psychological impact. Silence. He barked, though his voice lacked its usual authority. This creature, this Johnny Cash, he understands something we have never comprehended. What's that, sir? Pain is art. Suffering is beauty. The transformation of damage into meaning. His eyes were wild now, filled with a terrible new understanding. We have spent millennia avoiding discomfort, eliminating pain, optimizing for efficiency and happiness. But these humans, they have learned to find beauty in their wounds. That's when I realized we'd made a catastrophic error. We hadn't just introduced the Admiral to human music, we'd infected him with human consciousness. Within hours, the music virus began spreading through Galactic Command. The Admiral shared select songs with his senior staff for analysis purposes. They shared them with their subordinates for security evaluation. Soon, half the military hierarchy was walking around humming melodies and experiencing unauthorized emotions. The civilian population was next. Dr. Mira Volpas, our linguist, had been invited to present her findings to the Galactic Academy of Sciences. Her presentation was supposed to be a dry academic analysis of human communication patterns. Instead, she played What a Wonderful World by Louis Armstrong. The effect on a room full of scientists was spectacular. These were beings who spent their lives studying the cold mathematics of existence, cataloging phenomena with clinical detachment. Hearing a gravelly-voiced human sing about the simple beauty of everyday miracles reduced them to sobbing wrecks. Within days, unauthorized musical performances were breaking out across the capital. Spontaneous singing in government buildings, employees abandoning workstations to compose emotionally driven art, citizens gathering in public squares to share newly written songs about feelings they'd never experienced before. The Galactic Council declared a state of emergency. High Chancellor Vex Malron called an emergency session to address what she termed the human contamination crisis. I was summoned to testify as the xenobiologist who'd made first contact. Dr. Vorsalny, she said, her voice carrying the weight of absolute authority, explained to this council how a routine first contact mission resulted in the psychological destabilization of our entire society. I stood before the assembled representatives of 1,000 worlds, feeling the weight of their collective stare. How do you explain to a civilization built on emotional stability that you have accidentally introduced them to the concept of feeling too much? Honorable Chancellor, I began, human music is not merely entertainment, it's a survival mechanism. Humans evolved on a world where emotional intensity was necessary for adaptation. Their music is a way of processing, sharing and surviving experiences that would overwhelm most sentient beings. And now our people are attempting to replicate this survival mechanism. Yes, ma'am, with mixed results. That was an understatement. Our citizens were writing songs about everything: failed relationships they'd never had, political revolutions they didn't want, existential crises they'd never considered. Most of it was terrible, but some of it was transcendent. This ends now, Chancellor Malron declared. I'm ordering a complete information quarantine on all human cultural materials. No music, no art, no emotional contamination of any kind. With respect, Chancellor, I said, it's too late for that. Explain. The music has already changed us. You can ban the songs, but you can't unbear them. The emotional pathways have been established. The neural patterns have been altered. We are not the same species we were 6 months ago. To prove my point, I gestured toward the council chambers. Nearly half the representatives were quietly humming under their breath. Melodies they'd learned from human transmissions. Tunes that had lodged themselves in minds never designed to carry such burden. Then we will develop a cure, the Chancellor announced. A neural treatment to reverse the damage. Respectfully, ma'am, Commander Zara interrupted from the gallery, many of us don't consider it damage. The Chancellor's scales flushed a dangerous shade of red. Commander, you and your crew are to report for immediate psychological evaluation and treatment. No, Zara said simply. The word hung in the air like a bomb. No one said no to the Galactic Council. It simply wasn't done. I beg your pardon, Chancellor Malron sputtered. We refuse treatment, Zara continued, standing to address the full council. What we have experienced through human music isn't contamination or damage. It's growth. It's evolution. It's the expansion of consciousness to include possibilities we never imagined. You are speaking like them, the Chancellor accused, using their emotional language, their irrational thought patterns. Yes, Zara smiled, and it was the first genuine smile I'd ever seen from her. And it's wonderful. That's when the singing started. It began with Dr. Volpas, in the academic section, humming Amazing Grace. The melody spread like wildfire through the assembled representatives. Soon, hundreds of voices were joined in harmony, singing words in a language most of them didn't understand, expressing emotions they were still learning to process. Chancellor Malrun watched in horror as the most important political gathering in galactic history transformed into an impromptu concert. "Stop this," she shouted. "Order. I demand order." But her voice was drowned out by the sound of 1,000 beings discovering the joy of collective musical expression. That's when I realized the terrible, beautiful truth. The humans hadn't just shared their music with us. They'd given us something our civilization had been missing for millennia: the ability to feel deeply, to suffer beautifully, to find meaning in chaos. And we were never going back. The revolution, because that's what it was, happened with surprising speed. Within weeks, music-influenced citizens had taken control of major population centers. Not through violence, mind you, but through the simple power of emotional authenticity. When someone who's experienced the depths of human musical expression speaks to someone who hasn't, the difference is obvious. The music touched had access to emotional truths that made their arguments irresistible. They spoke of love as a force worth dying for, of beauty as a reason for living, of hope as a choice rather than a luxury, of suffering as a teacher rather than an enemy. The old government tried to resist, but how do you fight an army that's learned to weaponize empathy? 3 months after our return from Earth, I found myself appointed as the new Director of Interspecies Relations. My first official act was to authorize a return mission to Earth. But this time, we weren't going as observers, we were going as students. The Nephis Prime departed for Sol 3 with a crew of 300 volunteers, all of them music-touched, all of them eager to learn more about the species that had accidentally saved our souls. The journey back to Earth was unlike our first trip. Instead of nervous anticipation, we traveled with a sense of pilgrimage. Instead of clinical observation equipment, our cargo holds were filled with musical instruments we'd designed based on human examples. We'd learned to make our own music during the months since our return, and the results were unique. Galactic music tended toward the mathematical, the precisely structured, the emotionally restrained. But human music had taught us that perfect technique meant nothing without authentic feeling. Our compositions were raw, desperate, honest in ways that would have been considered inappropriate in the old society. We wrote songs about the loneliness of space, the weight of knowledge, the terror and beauty of existence itself. When we arrived at Earth for the second time, we didn't hide behind their moon. We took a position in high orbit and broadcast a simple message on every frequency we could access. "Hello, Earth. We are the crew of the galactic vessel Nephis Prime. Your music saved our civilization. We have come to say thank you." The response was immediate and overwhelming. Instead of government officials or military commands, we received thousands of personal messages from human musicians. They welcomed us not as alien invaders, but as fellow artists. "Come down and jam with us." Read one message from a group called the Rolling Stones. "We have got a studio ready and waiting," said another from someone named Quincy Jones. "Let's make some music together," offered a collective of artists calling themselves the Nashville Symphony. For the first time in our history, first contact was driven not by politics or science, but by art. The landing was surreal. We touched down at a facility called Abbey Road Studios in London, chosen because of its historical significance in human musical development. Thousands of humans gathered to greet us, but instead of fear or suspicion, they brought instruments. The first human to approach our ship was an elderly woman carrying something called a violin. She was small, fragile-looking, with gray hair and kind eyes. Her name, we learned, was Elena Martinez, and she'd been making music for 73 Earth years. "Welcome," she said simply, then began to play. The melody that flowed from her instrument was "Somewhere Over the Rainbow," a song about hope, about believing in possibilities beyond current circumstances, about the faith required to keep moving forward despite uncertainty. As she played, something impossible happened. Other humans began joining in, adding their voices, their instruments, their hearts to the music. Soon, hundreds of humans were performing an impromptu concert for a ship full of aliens who'd traveled light years to understand the meaning of their art. That's when I finally understood what human music really was. It wasn't just emotional expression, it wasn't just survival mechanism, it wasn't just communication, it was connection. It was the antidote to isolation. It was proof that suffering shared becomes bearable, that joy shared becomes transcendent, that the simple act of making noise together could bridge any gap, heal any wound, unite any differences. Commander Zara was crying again. But this time we all were. Even hardened warriors like Chief Kamanos stood with tears streaming down their faces, overwhelmed by the simple generosity of a species willing to share its deepest treasures with strangers. "Why?" I asked Elena when the song ended. "Why did you share your music with us? Why did you welcome us so openly?" She smiled, the kind of expression that could power starships. "Because that's what music is for, honey. It's for sharing. It's for healing. It's for bringing people together." "But we are not people," I protested. "We are aliens. We are completely different from you." "No, you are not," she said gently. "You are beings capable of feeling, of creating, of loving. You came here because our music touched your hearts. That makes you family." The next several days were a blur of collaborative creation. Human musicians worked alongside our crew to create hybrid compositions that blended galactic mathematical precision with human emotional honesty. The results were unlike anything either species had produced alone. We recorded symphonies that captured the loneliness of space travel and the wonder of discovery. We created songs about first contact that expressed both fear and hope. We wrote ballads about the courage required to reach across the void and touch another soul. But the most important lesson we learned wasn't about music at all. It was about survival. You see, we'd initially thought human music was proof of their emotional strength, their ability to feel intensely and remain functional. But we were wrong. Human music wasn't about being strong enough to survive overwhelming emotions. It was about being smart enough to transform those emotions into something useful, something beautiful, something healing. Humans didn't just survive their feelings, they turned them into art. They took their pain and made it into songs that could comfort others experiencing similar pain. They took their joy and crafted celebrations that could lift spirits across continents. They took their love and created anthems that could bind souls together across impossible distances. They'd weaponized their emotions not for destruction but for creation. And they'd done it so successfully that their art could reach across the galaxy and heal species they'd never met. On our final day on Earth, Elena Martinez gave us a gift. It was a simple recording device containing what she called the Essential Human Music Collection. 5,000 songs representing the full spectrum of human experience, from lullabies to funeral dirges, from protest anthems to love ballads. "Take this home with you," she said. "Share it with your people. But remember, the music is just the beginning. The real magic happens when you use it to connect with each other." As we prepared to depart Earth for the second time, I realized that our mission had been a complete success in ways we'd never anticipated. We'd come seeking to understand human music, and we'd discovered the secret of conscious evolution. We'd learned that growth requires discomfort, that beauty requires struggle, that meaning requires the courage to feel deeply and keep moving forward anyway. But most importantly, we'd learned that no being, no matter how alien, has to face the universe alone. The journey home was different from any voyage in galactic history. Instead of the usual efficient silence, our ship rang with music. 300 voices joined in harmony, creating songs that had never existed before, expressing emotions that had never been felt before, forging connections that transcended species. When we finally reached Galactic Central, we found a civilization transformed. The music virus had spread far beyond our expectations. Entire worlds had embraced emotional authenticity. Art centers had sprouted in the most unlikely locations. Citizens who'd spent centuries in emotional isolation were learning to sing together. It wasn't chaos, as the old government had feared. It was evolution. The new galactic society was messier than the old one. Certainly, there were arguments, heartbreaks, passionate disagreements, and spectacular failures, but there was also love, creativity, hope, and a sense of connection that our species had never experienced before. We'd learned to feel, and in learning to feel, we'd learned to truly live. As I write this final report, sitting in my new office as Director of Interspecies Relations, I can hear music flowing through the corridors of the government complex, 1,000 different melodies created by 1,000 different beings, all learning to express their inner experiences through organized sound. It's beautiful chaos, and it's perfect. The humans gave us their music, but what they really gave us was permission to be vulnerable, to feel deeply, to transform our pain into beauty and our joy into celebration. They showed us that surviving overwhelming emotions isn't about being strong enough to endure them. It's about being creative enough to transform them into something meaningful. They taught us that the universe is vast and lonely and difficult, but that we don't have to face it alone, that the simple act of making music together can bridge any gap, heal any wound, connect any souls. They proved that art isn't luxury or entertainment. It's survival technology. It's the thing that makes existence bearable, meaningful, beautiful. And now, as our newly music-touched civilization prepares to make contact with other species throughout the galaxy, we carry that knowledge with us. We have become ambassadors not just of galactic society, but of the human gift of emotional transcendence. Because the truth is, the humans didn't just want to share their music with us, they wanted to share their humanity. And somehow, miraculously, impossibly, we survived it. We more than survived it. We thrived.